Well, I just got done doing a property tour on Sunday afternoon. Part of the job, drove an hour and a half up to Webster, Wisconsin, and showed some really nice folks from the Twin Cities. One of my listings, the Burnett County 35. So if you're interested, check it out. But now I'm going to head over to my property. I'm only maybe a half hour or less north of it, and I'm going to pull my trail cameras. I've been having these trail cameras run now for a good month or so post deer season, and I'm doing an assessment to see what made it through the season and what didn't. And by now these bucks are starting to drop their horns, so we're gonna go over there. Lucy and I are gonna pull out the cameras, take a look at our inventory, maybe do a little shed hunting in the process. So I hope you would come along with us and watch the video. We'll show you what we find. So I'm out here finally on my property again, and late season like this is a great time to get out and see what these deer are doing. You can see these trails that are everywhere, and really could set up a path of directional travel. And as you can see here, a really nice trail, heavily used here, and I kind of suspected this would be a good spot. There's some nice trees right here. I'm guessing I'm going to get a tree stand up here, because they seem to be cut in the corner. There's a food plot over my shoulder here, and I have a good access trail coming in. Unfortunately, if I walk in here, the deer are using this a lot too, because there's tracks all over. But I do have other routes to come in with different wind, so this might be a good spot. So, man, you can tell a lot when you get out here in the winter time and see where these deer are moving. Get out and look around. So I've stayed out of my property now for a couple months, and just to let these deer move where they will. And here's a food plot that I'm going to be developing. It's kind of the western edge of my property, and these deer are using this. Obviously they're coming through here, coming past the stand. I can see some trails coming in and out here, but this is going to be a great food plot, about an acre in size, and I've got really good access from two different ways. So I'm happy to see these deer are coming along here on their natural course. I'm gonna try to create some bedding area over here. I'm gonna create some bedding area over here. Got multiple places to come in. It's gonna be a good setup. Okay, I'm on the southern edge of this food plot, this acre. I originally thought this was gonna be a good spot to maybe set up a stand, probably in that tree right there. But I'm not seeing a lot of action down here, a lot of trails. There's one coming out of here. It's an ATV trail, and they definitely are using it. They're cutting the corner of this food plot, and they're going up on the edge. Maybe when I get some food down here, this is gonna be a good spot. I also know up on this hillside, you can see that little hump right there. There's a lot of deer bedding up there, and I wanted to thicken that section. It's about 100 yards long. There's a big crop field on the other side there, but I think what I'm gonna have to do is if I'm gonna hunt that tree there, I'm gonna have to get some screening material in here, because I know they like to bed in there. I'm planning on thickening it up, so that hillside on the other side of that is gonna be a thick bedding area. I'm gonna have to sneak in here on the right wind. So a little screening cover right here to block the view of this field so I can get in here quietly. And one of the things when I'm assessing properties and my own is I'm looking for water. This little area back here is frozen now, and there's a little seep that's coming in. It's feeding this, and I've been in here multiple times through the summer, now into the winter. It's definitely holding water. So, the question is, should I put more water? Should I put water holes in here? And I'm gonna have to assess this. We'll see how it lasts through the dry months. But even though I have these water holes, I'm thinking I still want to put some secluded water in some really thick bedding areas, and at least get between food, water, bedding. Create that line of travel and try to find some spots that I can ambush them. But I have water. Should I add more is the question. Nice size oaks. These are great tree stand trees, but this timber is a little bit open, and what I think I'm going to try to develop are some thick areas and some transitional zones like this that are more open areas that maybe I can hunt, get up in some of these nice tree stand trees like this one, get up in this one, man, just disappear, and create these transitional zones from the thick bedding area over here, working this way towards the swamp. There's some ridges. It seems like they want to travel this way, and then these would be my ambush trees, hopefully between the two thick areas that I'll create. So when I bought this property, there were a number of these box blinds already in place, and they may be in great locations, I don't know yet, but I'm getting back in here. I'm doing my trail camera surveys, and I'm looking for things like this. There's a nice trail right through there, heading down in. This is a swamp here. There's a killer trail that comes along the swamp. So these deer definitely using this, coming through. My corner of my property's there. This tamarack back here seems to be real thick seclusion cover. They're definitely skirting the edge and going around it and cutting this corner. There's an inside corner between my property and the neighbors up there. So seeing these trails in the winter times kind of is helping me build that story, figure out how they're moving. Let's pull this camera chip right here, and hopefully we got some nice pictures. We'll see. Now my property here doesn't have a lot of topography, but there's just enough. As you can see here, this is a military crest. It drops off about 10 feet. And I can sneak in from that side of the left. These deer are using this trail along here. And there's tamarack swamp right there. So this seems to be a natural corridor for travel. And I'm trying to find some sheds and see where this goes. I know it pops out on a field about 100 yards down. You can barely see that white. So there's gonna be a number of trees that I'll be able to sneak in, pop up in the right wind, and ambush these deer as they're coming off my field down there. Let's go take a look at that. Okay, this gets me excited. So we got a trail right here. This is the one I've been walking, and it heads out to the food plots out here. So what these deer seem to be doing is they're walking the top of this crest here. There's a number of good-sized trees right up there. I'm gonna be able to get up into just a corner of a lot of activity. And when I put in some food down here in this field, this is gonna be an excellent corner. Kind of an inside corner. They're staying in the cover. They're working this little ridge, and they're all converging right in here. There's multiple trails right in here with some really good stand trees. So, and I got some trails up top that I can access this. So this is gonna be a good setup. All right, I'm heading out to the field now. Okay, here's the setup. So that tree right there is going to be a great tree for a tree stand. It's going to be on the edge of this field as a food plot. These deer are coming out right through here, following this tamarack swamp that's right here. So there's a lot of structural things on my property that all come into place here. Open field, tamarack swamp edge, little ridge up top here that I showed you a second ago. It all leads to this. And this is going to be a great corner, maybe for some brassicas in the fall, and maybe a cornfield, soybean field. It all heads out to that. Check out that trail right there. I hope the camera is focusing in. It's kind of kicking back and forth, I can tell, but there's a great trail right there. And man, they are hammering it. They're just hammering it. So good corner, a lot of intel here. This is fantastic. Okay, here's a feature of my property. I like to see this. This is a tamarack swamp. And this is a kind of like a deciduous pine tree. They lose their needles. You can see there's not holding any needles, but this is a low area. And what it does is these trees grow, and this creates a line of travel. And there's a trail right here going up this little ridge, and it's following the edge of this tamarack swamp. So this can be thermal cover. The stem count is pretty high in here, as you can see. Not so much now. I'm not seeing a lot of deer in there, honestly, but it can be thermal cover just because it's in a low area and it's out of the wind, and these deer will use it. I'm gonna walk through here. I just leave this alone, but I do like to see these features on these properties because it creates edge, and the deer are edge. They like the edge of biomes. The terrain features from oak to wetland to tamarack swamp. So it's a good edge to be on, and I can tell you they do use it. So I got one more camera back here to get, and we'll be on our way out. So here's a good example of one of these transition zones that I talk about. So it's got some nice trees here. As you can see, some big oaks. There's a field there that'll be planted in annuals and maybe little brassicas. But then You get down here, you can see how the wood darkens up, and that's a high stem count I talk about. Those are areas that the deer are feeling a little bit more secure in. They'll pass through these spots, and sometimes they can be pretty good for, you know, shooting does or maybe a cruising buck. But these are areas that they do not want to hang around in. They're only going to pass through them, maybe giving you a shot. You know, oaks are always nice. They're great for resale value. You can see that big old oak back there, old Sentinel oak, but not all of them produce. And here's an example. So this obviously has been producing some acorns. There are acorns and there's droppings here, and they've been digging, and they're definitely getting acorns right here. But over here is another tree. There's a couple there. There's some back there. I don't see any evidence of acorn drops. So this tree would probably be one that I want to keep, but maybe I would take out some of the rear ones to let this crown fill out and produce more. So not every oak is going to produce, and some of them it's fine to take out. You know, while these open areas aren't so good for habitat for the deer, they are great for the deer hunter, the one that's wanting to buy your property, the majority of them. They love to see these big trees, and here's one right here. This is an old growth oak, not doing much of anything. I don't see any acorn, any digging, so it's probably not producing. But I tell you what, when my buyers come out in the woods, they love to see that stuff. So I don't always recommend cutting these big trees down, even if they're not producing, because they really help in resale value because of the aesthetic value that they provide. People like to see trees, so it's just something to think about. And it's a hard decision when you're trying to grow deer or you're trying to grow trees. But I always, you know, I figure that someday these properties are going to be sold, and this is something the buyer likes to see. So it's just something to think about before you start hacking down every tree you find. This is an area where I think I'm going to screen this off right here. And so I'm going to be able to walk down past here, or maybe on the other side, depending on where I see deer. I think this is going to be a doe killing heaven right here. It's near the cabin. You'll be able to sneak in here. And I learned this from Jake Eilinger. You compartmentalize these big fields, and you get some areas where the does are separate from the bucks. The bucks will be down the farm a little bit, and I'll be able to come in here and maybe get up in one of these pine trees here and these white pine and just disappear. But a great doe killing spot. So I'm going to compartmentalize this field, and I think it's going to be really good. So these deer just don't, you know, these bucks just don't pop out in the field from either side, see nothing, and take off. They're going to have to move through here, creating that line of travel that I talk about a lot. So that's the plan. Okay guys, well that's the end of today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'm trying to build a management plan for my property here, just to create a great hunting place. And in the process, I'm showing it to you guys. And a lot of these videos I just do as I go, film as I go. So the plan is starting to develop in my head. I'm starting to see the things I don't have. I'm looking at the things I do have. I'm coming up with a plan. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna take a look at all these pictures I'm getting, see what I have for inventory, and then pretty soon I'll be doing soil tests, and we'll start planting some seed in the ground and start building up this deer factory. So, hey, I'm Neil Hauger, land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate. I really appreciate you following me. I hope you enjoyed this one.